So, hello, hello, hello. I'm hoping. Oh, let's get the mic on and everything like that. I'm gonna move this over a little bit. Sorry. Okay.
No worries.
Good enough, good enough, good enough. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. I'm hoping someone can give me just a good in the chat that you can hear and see us because that is our lifeblood at this point. And I'm not getting anything. Good, 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 good. All right. Ooh, all right. So, Mr. Warlock, good morning. I'm just going to give a special shout out to you. But thank you all for being here. This is kind of a first installment of Don't Call It a Comeback, and which basically elections they're not the finish line, they're just checkpoints. And so one cycle is not enough for a lot of progressive and leftist candidates. And you know, when we look at Bernie Sanders and his route, it took him a few tries, and his first win was with 10. So I want to introduce someone that you should already know, but if you don't, Lauren Ashcraft. So she had ran for the New York 12th district, and so didn't hit it the first time. But why that's why she's here is because she already had said that she's going to keep going. And so Lauren, welcome, and thank you for coming. And I say good luck on the next round.
Thank you so much. Well, we're waiting for a couple things to, be solidified. So we're actually going to have some redistricting going on in the state, and we're not quite sure how that's going to impact New York 12. Keep hearing rumors that we're pretty high up on the list for some very strong changes in what the district borders look like.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of seeing what is left of it, and we'll take that into consideration.
Well, and something this is something I didn't necessarily think I was going to get into, but the district is interesting in its makeup.
Totally gerrymandered.
So, and that's the thing is, from the way it looks, it appears like a lump. It looks like one solid chunk. Most gerrymandered things, I think Dan Crenshaw is one of the favorites. It looks like a beaten, run over turkey that's folded over a fence. Um, but your district, like in New York 12th, it's effectively an oval, you could say, but it's
Hmm.
got what, three different counties that actually make up, and a few different towns, and so it's very puzzle pieced when
Yeah.
you look through a little bit deeper.
Yeah, when people actually like understand the map of New York City, it's a really strangely laid out district that encompasses much of the Upper East Side, Midtown East, Lower East Side, but then also a chunk of Northwest Brooklyn and a chunk of Western Queens. So
Yeah.
I'm in the Queens part of it, and so I'm kind of wondering if I'm going to be in New York 12. I don't really know. It's just
Yeah.
and when you understand New York, also you realize that all three or four of those areas have really different cultures.
Mm.
And whenever you look at like Western Queens, a lot of people have lived here their whole lives and are really struggling to stay. There's new new young people moving into the Upper East Side due to some new affordability there. But there's also Billionaire Row,
Yeah.
and a lot of students and artists and stuff scattered throughout the district. But whenever you look at the fact that we have Billionaire Row and thousands of people that are struggling to even stay in the
Now I
district.
know that Billionaire Row is pretty self-explanatory, but I kind of hate myself, so I want to hear it. Can you just kind of go into detail about what Billionaire Row is?
Yeah. So, my district actually has a lot of America's billionaires, and a lot of them live within a few 100 feet of each other. It's close to Central Park, and there's just an area of um, the Upper East Side that has a row of billionaires. It's really simple, but whenever you look at like the median income, the average income, the household income of the district, it's skewed because it's six figures
Yeah,
and you think, oh, like everyone's doing pretty well, but whenever you think about the fact that there's a handful of families that pull it up, and
yeah,
then like so many of us, myself included, I haven't been able to get a job yet since the election, and I worry that we're in the middle of a pandemic, and it's a scary time, but there have been people that have been struggling to stay here for a very long time. And that's really what the district is. It's a very stark mixture of people that are either very happy about how things are going right now or can't sleep at night because they're worried about being able to have a house.
yeah. No, and that's wild that I think that's just like one of the conundrums, right, of America. And, to put it so loosely is probably a shame, but the fact that you could have so much, focused into a literal row of houses, and then just outside, within 30, 40 feet outside of that, and then the lives of everyone else is just so drastically different. But I think that takes us into a good just segue as to like why are you doing this? Running for office, and with my experience that actually I'm going to rewind a little bit and just kind of talk about our background. Yourself with Left Flank Vets, and formerly Veterans for Bernie. Um, at first, and really even right now, we're just looking to help end the military-industrial complex, and help leftist and progressive causes like Medicare for all, ending for-profit colleges, getting rid of tuition, all of these things, and through that you meet a lot of other candidates that just reach out and just like for looking for help. So with Lauren, she had a conversation with Lorax talking about just the intersectionality with veterans, in so many ways. So myself as a black man and a veteran, right? That means some things, and then you've got a whole list of other things, especially nowadays, with our trans brothers and sisters, and some of the things that they're going through within the military service, or being excluded from it. So we had just had some conversations with you, just really just trying to help out as best we can, and even just talking about some of the VA and how that'll work, so that when you do, whether it's NY-12 or whatever, yeah, just basically having some background of how these things work and where the rubber meets the road. Um,
Yeah.
so
And
I
I'm
guess,
so
oh,
appreciative of those conversations that we've had too, and look forward to many, many more because there's so much to learn and there's so much that's broken in our country. We have a long way to go.
well, and that's, I mean, it's a plug for this show right here. So don't call it a comeback. It's if you are a candidate that is just on your path to victory, we're here for you, and you're always going to be welcome. And we're already working on you as a second show as a Paula Jean surrogate. So look out for that in the future. But yeah, so I guess what made you want to run, and also, I mean, if we can bring the elephant in the room, what made you want to run against Carolyn Maloney?
Yeah. So it's been a long time coming, really. And I think people look at candidates and like forget that they're humans, or real people that like have families and stories and bills to pay. And it was a really serious decision to decide to like put life on hold for a year and a half and give up a paying job and really put yourself and your whole family out there, really. So that was a really long decision. I did it because of the inequality that we just discussed, and I was a planner for the Women's March on New York, and just really saw like the difference of, I brought Ocasio-Cortez on stage, and she had just won her general election, really, and you know was able to talk about the Green New Deal as something that everyone in the audience understood. And it really clicked with me that there's so much more to being a representative than there is like showing up to votes and like waving to people at your district and kissing babies. It's like you have this platform, and like now I have somewhat of a platform too. Whatever platform you have to use it to push forward conversations. And you have this opportunity, like every time that I tweet, it could reach 38,000 people or more. So I think about what I'm writing and putting out there, and I want to push things. I
Yeah.
want to push people left, and I want people to understand like what's really going to happen to you if we spend more than we tax back? Absolutely fucking nothing.
Yeah.
And yeah, like what's the bad part about your poor neighbor having health care, having health insurance, universal health care? There's nothing that happens to you. Like we have this false idea of scarcity when it comes to federal money, and like everything I can do to change that conversation and to keep pushing us forward and to put questions in people's mind, I feel like
Yeah.
that's my role. And that would also still be part of my role should I be elected. Like I see all these people just kind of like showing up. I feel like they have to put so much like after the election I've been like still pushing electeds to do their job, and it's like, man, if this is painful for you, why the fuck do you do it? Because there are people that like I would be so excited to have resources to help my district. Like
Yeah.
to have the ability to vote in ways that impact everyone, and to know that I'm doing it based on an agenda that's based on people. Like, I don't think that even half of Congress is thinking like that. I think they're like, oh, I get to have soirees and like ride in limousines and have a posse that like fixes my hair.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't know.
well, no, and I don't think you're far off. So, um, and there's a lot, like one of the things that you hit on that, if this is hard for you, just get out. If
Yeah.
it's hard for you to care about people and want to do right by them, because that's your job, if you just have pride in what, like, it's very easy to say, hey, I have pride in what I want to do every day, right? And whether,
Mhm.
what's that saying? Like whatever the little saying is, that ends with candlestick maker. Like you could be anything, right? Do it with pride, not like don't do anything bad, of course. But how do you get to this position? And really, your only job is to help people, you
Yeah.
know, and it is hard. It's like, I wouldn't even say hard. We look out and see that for some people it's impossible. They are completely apathetic.
Yeah. I just don't know what it's really hard for me to empathize with them. And I can't imagine like they're having all these donations and all these people and influences thrown at them, and I understand, like I hear what it's like from like new electeds, that there's a lot of pressure coming at you from all sides, and like I understand there are things that can happen, like maybe if I am elected you'll see me like having lunch with somebody that like you wouldn't expect that we would be in the same room, and maybe you have to work with people that you totally disagree with, but you could work together on this one initiative and it looks weird. Like, that's the kind of weird influences that I expect. But if I got like $10,000 thrown at me by Pfizer, like, no. And
Yes.
I
Yeah.
I
Right.
don't understand. Like where's your line where you draw, like, where do you draw your line with your morals? Because I got into this to help people. So why are you accepting money so that you don't help people anymore? You can make more money in the private sector. Why are you doing this?
Yeah. No. And what's funny is that when you're talking about, Carolyn Maloney, she can do both. So she's one of the richest members of Congress. Um, she had a huge, you know, estate given to her, and like that's things like I don't know how to speak in this. Like I don't know, I'm not rich enough to say all the right terms. So if I say something wrong, speaking in inheritance, I'm sorry. But um, yeah, came from an extremely wealthy family. Her late husband was a investment broker, bank, something. Um, and she has stakes in these properties that are, we were looking up some of the FEC stuff like that. These things are worth like millions of dollars, and actually a thing too is that, well, I'm going to ask you a question and we'll just see, right, of the odds or the what you're battling against. Is it possible for you to loan your own campaign $300,000 in one
No.
cycle? No, you don't
No.
think
No.
so? Well, wow.
Yeah, that
No
that
wonder
is
it's so
what.
hard.
Totally. And that is what working class people are up against when they run for office. And like, one of the questions I've gotten since looking for a job right now, and I think this is really illustrative of like who our politicians are. People ask me, so why are you going from running for Congress to applying for a job with us? And it's like, my campaign's over.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a real person that has rent to pay. And
Aren't you
I
supposed to go on
don't,
a book tour or just be
yeah,
a talking head pundit or something? Or isn't
that's
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 what you
what people
do,
think.
right?
Yeah. And no, I'm struggling to find work. I'm on unemployment right now. So
Well, and that's the thing is that like you're a real person, right? Like,
mhm.
and that's what we need. We need real people that understand what we're going through, and so and what you mentioned too is like your family, which I think is just a super interesting part of your whole story. Um, yeah, can you kind of just go into just a little bit about who you are, where you're coming from, especially
Yeah.
your grandparents. I'm especially interested in.
Yeah, of course. I love talking about them. So I am Japanese and white. And that was also like a huge part of my campaign. A lot of my trolls had a lot of issues with that. So I refuse to apologize for being a mixed race individual. But my grandma was from Japan, and she met my grandfather who was serving in the Air Force. And they got married, they had my dad in Japan. And then whenever my grandfather's term in the military was over, they immigrated back to the United States. And
And he
um,
became a coal miner. Is that
yes, yes, because, and I think this also
because he's
speaks.
hard ass? That's why. Because he's damn
Well,
hard.
that's that probably true. I've never met him, unfortunately, but he had to find a way to feed his family in the military. Doesn't help you all that much after you leave.
Yeah.
So he became a coal miner, which is his that was his option. That's where his family was from, West Virginia, and he went back there. He became a coal miner, and it wasn't that long until the coal mine exploded, and my grandfather was one of the victims of the Farmington mine disaster. So my newly immigrated grandmother was left to raise her family without anything. She got some really tiny social security checks. She had a plot of land in West Virginia and grew some vegetables and had some animals and survived. And they lived in terrible poverty. And eventually, my grandmother put herself through night school to get a GED. Then she went through nursing school. And, when I was growing up with her around, it was, she always just like, if I ever had the slightest complaint about having to go to school, man, I've never seen somebody so mad
Yeah.
because she worked very hard to be able to get an education and to earn a paycheck, and she fought.
Yeah.
And I ended up making it through grad school, and like I always had her voice in the back of my head, like education is how you can make it in this country, and it's such a damn shame that there's such a high price tag, because I think we have talked about the fact that a lot of people join the military with the hopes of having education paid for after, but the atrocities that they're forced to see and the trauma that they come home with, is it worth it? I don't know, but it's some people's only way out. And when I look at like my dad, the fact that he went to school is how he got out of poverty. My grandmother went to nursing school, it's how she got out of poverty. And they pushed me so that I would never have to experience like hunger.
Yeah.
And I carry that with me. Unfortunately, my grandmother, I mean, she's a huge influence in my life. And I think about the fact that we were by her side as she fought cancer, and that cancer was caused by radiation, and that radiation happened when the United States bombed Japan. So she's just a huge influence for me in so many ways because I'm anti-war, and it has to do with the fact that I saw my grandmother have to battle cancer for a lot of her life. And she sat me down and talked to me about what it was like to be in a shelter and come out and not have a house anymore. And losing everything, and trying to reconcile all of that as a kid.
Yeah.
So she's a huge part of me. Unfortunately, she passed away in the beginning of my campaign. Talk about like people experiencing real life
Yeah.
while they're campaigning. She had a stroke, and I went down to Florida and just was, she wasn't going to recover. So we sat with her, and that was a terrible experience. And then you come home and you have to fundraise.
Yeah.
So whenever I think about doing it all over again, like I can't say I'm thrilled about it. And um I don't really, like I'm not 100% there. It's exhausting. You put your life on hold. I have two young nieces that I would like to spend time with and not have to worry about like calling people asking for money. So, I don't know. I'm leaning towards it, but man, when like people don't understand like the amount of yourself that you put into to being a candidate for office. So props to everyone who's still doing it. I'm I've been taking this time like looking for a job and like also recovering. There's a lot of healing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that when you're talking that I want to like kind of be able to touch on, but especially with that last part of like the campaign, which a lot of us in left flank have a little bit of experience with campaigning, but not as candidates, and it's hard, it's rough, it is very much similar to deployment life, where like sleep is next to none. You're constantly questioning yourself, your every action you take, every person you
Mm.
talk to. Am I spending enough time doing this? Am I doing this too much? Um, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, and especially when you're
Totally.
going up against someone that can literally reach in their back pocket and inject $300,000 of their own money into their campaign. And um, we haven't gotten too much into it, but not only is she rich, but yeah, she also does she gets a lot of the donors, a lot of the big donors, and it also stems from, the committee positions that she has and what she chooses to do with that power.
Yeah.
And which is not a whole lot, right? And I think it's interesting is that Maloney seems like one of the she very much superficially gets it, you know. She does a lot of things, and like some of these are just like absolutely wild. So starting the war as when she voted for the war in Iraq, wore a burqa on the floor of the house when went on this insane rant. Then she's later apologized for the vote, and we need to get out of the wars. Uh, the Iran nuclear deal. I mean, I'll say this: if Obama did one good thing, it was that. She said, "Oh, it's terrible to begin with," and then now when Trump was pretty much doing what she had first wanted, I guess, and then now she doesn't like it. And you see her with the or with the firefighter's jacket. It's like, I'm not going to take this off until I get this bill passed or whatever. And I was like, for me, that's just very gimmicky.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
and that just
It's
is like, I've done some staffing stuff. I know what these people can do. And like, we've talked about before, it's this type of thing of like, I'm holding this sledgehammer, but I'm just going to pick up this toothpick instead. But I'm gonna shout to the rooftops that I have this sledgehammer, that I can do these powerful things and help you, but I just
hmm
don't.
Yeah, there's this huge question of like if you spend your career acting one way and then suddenly you get primaried and you're like, oh, like I'm anti-war. like I looked at like Ed Markey's campaign and I really wanted him to beat Joe Kennedy, but it's also because Joe Kennedy is terrible.
Yeah, right. No, and that is where there's a lot of things that like, you can look at Ed Markey's run and say, hey, if you are an old established, Democrat, you can get on board with the left, right?
Mhm.
However, if it wasn't Joe Kennedy, if there was a baby Bernie Sanders that was running against Ed Markey, sorry.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just
Yeah.
sorry. And like, Ed, yeah, dope. You got some drip. I love the Jordans are cool. But yeah, at the end of the day, like, if there was somebody better, I'm just sorry. Sorry, not sorry. This is a job, and we want the best.
Yeah. And you have to earn the votes every single time that your term is up. And that's the whole thing too, is like earning votes is a lot harder when you don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to throw into your own campaign. I think I donated 2,000 something dollars. And that was
Money
like,
bags.
yeah, and that was like a big deal for me.
Yeah, I can
And
imagine. I'm sweating just thinking of like, if I had to
yeah,
take $2,000 out of my own life over the next 3 months,
totally.
I'd probably throw up.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You think like I thought about it and I was like, can I do this? I talked to my partner about it. Like it was a big decision. And when I think about like, what if I had 300,000 extra dollars? Like we had the lowest cost per vote in the race. I think we
Yeah,
spent like $12 per vote that we got. 11. Sorry, I'm getting corrected. $11 per vote, which
actually, $11.
exactly. Yeah. But like thinking about if we had hundreds of thousands of dollars, like we really could have won.
Yeah,
But that's the scary part about running for office is like you'd like to think that like somebody with an amazing vision can win if they just knock on every door, but to knock on every door you need money
yeah.
to put a mailer in everyone's mailbox, you need money. To show up on TV, you need money. So it takes money to win, and that's where the really wealthy people have a serious advantage because they put their own money in.
Yeah. Or they've got friends that are a lot wealthier
Yeah,
than our friends are.
totally. I have no billionaires on my speed dial.
If I was a billionaire, I would have given you a few hundred grand. Okay,
Thank you so
you
much.
know.
Even though I say eat the rich all the time.
Yeah. Ooh, which I think gives me, a good time to. Oh, Mr. Choppy woke up. Hello,
Oh,
Lauren.
you you named it.
Yeah. Um, but anytime eating the rich comes out, you got to make
Thank
sure
you.
that the butchering is done in a nice, resourceful manner and efficient. Um,
Yes.
so
I think about like Donald Trump has paid less taxes than us.
yeah, no, they're like, and that's the thing is that so yeah. Well, now we'll go into some current event stuff because the debates tonight,
Oh,
Joe Biden got served up. And actually, too, we're gonna be streaming the debate later.
oh
Check
my
out
gosh,
Left
it is
Flank.
tonight.
I think we're gonna be doing some bingo stuff. So follow, subscribe, make sure you get the alerts, and we'll be on tonight, going through this whole thing. That's gonna be an absolute mess. Um,
I'm
but
scared.
yeah, like you said, Donald Trump, he paid paid less in taxes, than I did in haircuts when I was in the Marine Corps for a year. Um, and I think Joe Biden's they're gonna blow it because what they're gonna focus on is, hey, you didn't pay taxes. What they should focus on is, hey, you're a crappy businessman, and that's the thing that's gonna hurt Trump the most. Like you literally can see on the news, people already saying like, well, I hate paying taxes too. That's how smart Trump is, and it's like, oh no.
I just like that is evidence to me that propaganda has been very successful in this country. And like we don't think about like how we've been educated as propaganda. But I literally remember, actually, my partner remembers this too, and we went to school in two different states. I remember being taught that communism was when like the Soviet government wanted 900 pounds of nails. So instead of making all these little nails, they made one 900-pound nail. And like, I remember
This actually
that
sounds pretty
being,
hard. One name.
it's a big nail.
Yeah.
But I remember like my teacher being like, that's communism. It's stupid.
Yeah.
Like, and like that's propaganda. Like our
Yeah.
brains are broken that I had to relearn economics to understand that we can pay for Medicare for all at the federal level and a jobs guarantee and a Green New Deal, and nobody would mind.
The thing that's wild is so my dad was actually a democratic socialist when he was in Jamaica,
Hell yeah.
and I had no idea until I was like call him and like, Dad, you gotta hear about this shit called fucking socialism. It is dope. Like no one has to live in all this bullshit. Like we just take care of each other. He's like, doesn't that sound cool? He's like, yeah, 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 but you can't say that word. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you can't say the S word. S word's bad. Socialism. And that was
Everyone's gonna think that you're gonna make
yeah.
900-pound
And,
nails.
and so my dad, he actually told me that, hey, he voted for Bernie. Um, I got a few donations out of him.
Yeah.
Um, but I said, trying to get him to the next step, I was like, Dad, you're gonna need to start posting about Bernie Sanders on Facebook if we're gonna make this happen. And he said no. And he said the only reason was the S word. The fact that Bernie Sanders was
Yeah.
just okay saying, yeah, I'm a democratic socialist was enough for him. And that's that Red Scare BS that it's like injected in the veins of children in the United States.
Yeah. And socialism is not communism. And if we had adequate civics and history courses in public education in this country, then we could have some really great conversations about it, but I feel like half of the battle is just like educating and helping people understand, like, I don't give a shit, call it whatever you want. I want to make sure that everyone can go to the doctor and not end up with a lifetime worth of debt. Call that like unicorn vomit. I
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah, no, totally agreed. And that's where, um, yeah, we can definitely get lost in like, oh, are you a Marxist Leninist? Or are you this, that, and whatever? Libertarian socialist, this, that. But like, really, yeah, there are policies that have real definitions and stakes, and can change our world for the better, our nation for the better, state, county, whatever you want to do. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't care what you call it, but when you look at the structure of it and how things operate, it's better than what we're doing now. So, like you
Mm.
said, unicorn vomit, great. Let's get some sparkles and a horn, and let's do
Yes.
this thing. Um,
Yeah.
but but that's where people get caught up, or they just completely dismiss you, right? It's like this whole crazy thing of like now people calling Black Lives Matter a Marxist movement, and I just have no idea where they get where they get it from. I don't really understand like what that means to them. Like when they say it's a Marxist movement, I'm not sure what that definition translates to in their brain, other than
Yeah.
it's bad. Um, but it's just wild. It's crazy.
Yeah, and that's like that is the propaganda work. And whenever you think about the fact that like I saw one of my friends posted that he spoke with somebody and was like, "You got to file for unemployment. Like you need this right now. You're gonna lose your home." And this person was like, "Yeah, but I don't want to take from other people." And this is like I don't know how this happened along the way of U.S. history, but like me having healthcare helps you.
Yeah. Well, and the
Like
thing with unemployment, like literally, like that's your money. All right. So I'm
yeah,
talking to everyone right now. Your unemployment that you draw is your money. They took
yes.
it from you so that they could give it back to you.
Everything you don't take just gets given to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Just think of it like that.
Yes.
If you
Yes.
love that, then like good on you. But the money that you are owed
Yes.
that you don't take goes to JP Morgan and Donald Trump.
Yeah. Which is like nuts that a lot of people don't understand that. They think, like with unemployment, right? That's like something that gets taken out of check like every month, and so that whenever you go on unemployment, you just say, "Hey, I'm just taking out that piggy bank," right? It's just a
Yeah,
savings account for when
that's
you're
yours.
unemployed. That's yours. That belongs to
Exactly.
you. Social Security, same thing. When people like tell you like, "Oh, the Social Security, it's not going to be able to be paid for or whatever the hell," it's like, no, unless the entire workforce just vanishes, like Social Security is going to be fine. What you need to do is expand the limit to make sure that more than what is it, 175 or $200,000, something like that.
It's like 130,000.
Oh, geez. So like I'm way above it. I'm going to start saying it's $95,000. So yeah, that's where it's no, it's all BS. And even with the going back to Trump and the whole tax scam being let out, for a lot of things he wasn't doing anything wrong. A lot of these things are only really illegal if A, you get caught, and B, they take action on it.
When you think about the fact, like, I accidentally, on my first real job ever, I was filling out my tax forms by myself. I was like, I got this. I was like, I refused to ask anyone for help. I don't know how. It was like it was an e form, and I accidentally check marked that I was exempt from federal taxes, and it took me a while to realize that my taxes weren't getting taken out the way they should be,
Mm.
and I owed a lot of fines. I will never forget that. Is my first job ever when I had nothing. I had to pay a crap ton of fines and interest for an accident that I made.
I don't want to get
And
too much into the details. Can you tell us, was it above or below $750?
it was above.
Of
I had to
course it
write,
was.
yes, I had to write like a $4,000 check. And I remember I was crying because I didn't have it. And you could see like tear marks on that check. That
Oh
was
my
like,
god, that's so sad. I'm
I
so
had to
sorry.
mail this check.
Oh my.
It was
Oh
terrible. I'm
yeah.
never going to forget it because, like, your first job ever, you accidentally don't pay federal taxes for like a while, and you think you're like having an okay time paying your rent, and then you realize that money should have been like bleeding out of your paychecks a lot faster. So it was terrible. And yeah, yeah, I'm not gonna forget that. I always like whenever I like start a new job and fill out paperwork for the first time, I feel my heart race. It's like kind of like a horror story that is reliving every time I fill out that paperwork.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's God, that's terrible. That's terrible. But that's the thing is that yeah, if you're making, a few tens of $1,000s a year and you just fill it out wrong, like watch out
Yeah,
because they're
fines
coming after
and
you.
interest.
Yes. But I don't have any hope really that anything's going to happen to Donald Trump. I don't think
That's
he's going to go to prison. I don't think anything's going to happen to him. I think that once if he loses, this race, I think that they're just going to do what they do, which is forgive war crimes and terrible behavior.
Yeah, I mean, I think about the fact that Dick Cheney is literally a war criminal, and we didn't want to like play partisan politics whenever we finally got George Bush out of office. So I am like, see, this is like the use of having somewhat of a platform is like day one, like inauguration day. I'm gonna be like, time for Donald Trump to go to prison. You know what I mean?
Yeah, at
Like,
least, at least.
yeah,
Well, and like that's like,
yes,
I would say though too that it's like this is kind of like the Brad Parscales thing, and I don't know if you saw that video of his former campaign manager got cops
yes,
called on him for domestic violence and cop
yes.
and like he's outside and is like, hey, what's that, like whatever, and the cop ends up like tackling his ass. Now that's, I mean, it's the first police brutality video in a long time that I got to laugh instead of cry at, so I guess that's good, but um, really, like at the end of the day, there's like just it's all this different treatment. You
Hmm.
know, it's like just there's two ways to go about things, and for them, it's all about forgive me, forget. Nancy Pelosi's on the record saying, "Oh yeah, we knew he lied. Bush lied about the war, but why would we impeach over that? Over millions
Because
of
they all
lives?"
voted for it.
Yeah, exactly, right, and that's the thing too is like Carolyn Maloney, like like we obviously looked in, did another just deep dive of all of like her worst hits, and it just doesn't make any sense. Like you got to
Yeah,
ask questions, right? You only got
yeah.
fooled if you didn't ask questions, and if you are a representative that's in charge of sending people to war, you got to fucking ask questions.
Like war. You get
War, right?
your whole career. You're like, oh, I get to like make a public park or whatever. Like,
Yeah,
oh, I got an extra $500,000 to like build a library,
yeah,
whatever. This is war. So if there's any time in your career to ask questions, it's now.
yes, yeah, and that's yeah. Like I really don't feel like it's too much. I don't feel like it's
No.
too much. And that's easy. People got it right. Obama got it right. Bernie Sanders got it right. There are people who
Yeah.
are able to get that question right. Barbara
Yeah.
Lee got Iraq and Afghanistan. She's the only 100% A plus, right?
She's amazing. And she also voted against the AOMF
Yeah,
that gave, was it three presidents, the unilateral authority to just invade?
yeah, So the war
Wow,
on
why
terror.
would ever
That's yeah.
why would anyone think that's a good idea? I'm so sorry, did I yell in your ear?
Oh, you're good. No, they're falling out, but yeah, I can. I'm half deaf, right? So like it's fine. But no, it's just absolutely crazy. Yeah, and like you think, oh hey, we're about to go and just
War.
absolutely dismantle a whole country's infrastructure, destabilize the region as far as like the different social groups that are going on, and just kill hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. That I don't know, and like that's the
And
like
kids.
there's a group that just it's kind of like the Holocaust or the Auschwitz Museum type of thing on Twitter, but it's for babies that are deformed due to the nuclear waste that's been left, and so like the rounds some like we use in military utilize depleted uranium, and
Wow.
that stuff can't just be thrown around and in people's neighborhoods and stuff like that, but it was, and now there's all types of birth defects, and it is heartbreaking. I kind of have to force myself to watch it to say like, this is what I'm stopping. This is what I'm trying to stop.
Yes.
The
Yeah,
continuation of this, because it's just horrible, and then to think that
totally.
like, and that's not anything new, right? That's not a new thing of like, oh, well, war used to be better and easier. No, it's always been fucking terror.
Propaganda.
Exactly, right? I mean, people think of
Yeah.
like World War II as some like just war that was only fought in these like fields out in nowhere, but it was like, I mean, the bombing of Tokyo killed more. Like, yeah, the bombing campaign in Tokyo killed more people than both of the atomic bombs put together.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Like, I was an exchange student. This was one of the greatest privileges of my life is I was an exchange student in Germany and lived with a family over there. And my host grandmother lived in Dresden when they were bombed to smithereens. And she told me like horror stories. Like, she was in her late 80s and told me these things that still keep her up at night. Like, whenever we think about war, we don't think about like the kids that live with those images for the rest of their life if they even survive,
Yeah.
or we don't think about like people who come home from war after serving in the military because they needed education so that they could get a paying job so that they're not always living paycheck to paycheck. Like, these are all the things that like people are like, whenever these members of Congress were sitting down and like deciding whether to go to war, nobody thought about that stuff.
Not at
And
all. Yeah.
I think about like the Markeys of the world, the Maloneys of the world. If I'm being completely honest, I think everyone who voted yes for the Iraq war should resign. Like, you made a mistake. If you were working in a bank or a nonprofit and you fucked up that badly,
You'd be fired.
you'd be fired.
Hell
But
yes.
your stupid vote cost hundreds of thousands of lives, and we don't even know the extent of the damage because there are kids that are being born with deformities. Like, we just don't even know. Anyway, I'm very passionate about this.
No, it's and
Resign.
I yes I like obviously I don't know what to say except I agree. Keep talking. Yes, this is it. No, I want
Resign.
I want to be conscious of the time constraints because some of you might have heard in the bonus pre-material, Warren does have a cat that needs to get to the vet. So yeah, just let us know how much if we got what 5 minutes if that works or
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Um, well, yeah, no, and I think it's just been awesome, having you on and being able to talk with you. I'm already excited that I'm just gonna go ahead and say you have to come back. All right, you just
Yes.
have to.
I would
Um,
love to.
but one last thing too, and that I think there's like a good, kind of an interesting point, right, of redemption. Um, the people who voted for the Iraq War. There's like Ed Markey. He still, he gets deported over Joe Kennedy. Joe Kennedy was a horribly, horribly flawed candidate. And
So
House
that they
member.
voted for nuclear
Yeah, and
weapons.
House member. He voted
Yeah.
for nukes. He was like, oops. Um, but I think, and this is something that you've alluded to before, that you used to work for J.P. Morgan Chase, right? And
Mm.
I used to work for the Marine Corps, which is committed war crimes. So you're not worse than me.
Well,
Um, but no, can you? And that was something that like your opponents had brought up, like, ooh, look at you. But you're like, no, yeah, I saw this, right? I walked in thinking, oh, I can do good things, and this is just a bank. And then you realize this place is fucked.
that's exactly what happened. And like, I again, like I people like forget, like as a human, you have all these influences in your head, and like I had grown up hearing like, you got to get a good job, you got to get education, you got to do this, like because of the poverty that my dad and grandmother experienced. And it's like, oh wow, like I remember in my 20s, I was like, I made it. Like, I have a regular paycheck. I have correctly filled out my employment forms. Like, I made it. And JP Morgan's not going anywhere. Like, I was just like, yeah. I thought that was like a very successful move that I made. And like, it's not that long after I started that I'm like, wow, fuck capitalism. Fuck this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and that's and like for me personally, like I was getting like hammered drunk almost every day, and just working as a bartender. Like just pay, like just bill to bill, paycheck to paycheck. When I was like, I can't do this anymore, and then I ended up joining the Marine Corps. Like
Hmm.
I saw, I saw a road that like my life was going down that was like, this never ends good. Like I'm gonna
Yeah.
have a good time, but this isn't gonna end good. Um, but then yeah, like even like first when you get in, you start try to like there's a whole hell of a lot of propaganda that comes in with joining into these huge institutions as well. But after a time, like it doesn't take long for you to realize like, oh yeah, this is terrible, and now I also have the information to do something against it, or
Hmm.
about it. Um, and that's the thing is like I don't know. It's all nice and well that you could have the Maloneys or the Markeys and say, oh hey, war is bad now, but are they really doing everything they could do to stop these wars? Are they really
Yeah.
pushing as hard as they should if they actually felt the weight of the lives that have been affected by these things? And you know, I I would say nay. I don't believe that they are.
Yeah. And that's sort of like, you've made an active decision to no longer be part of the military. And that's like where I'm looking for these people to like show, like you're saying, some kind of redemption. They can vote no for war now, but I want to see them kind of going back to what I was saying earlier is like all of them have these platforms. Use your platforms to be like, man, I fucked up. And like show pictures of the kids that have birth defects because of your vote.
Yeah.
I realize that's not going to help you win an election, but I want to see people understand the gravity of the choices that they've made.
Yeah.
And I'm like not employed right now, and I will never go back to a bank. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, you can learn, you can grow, and I want to see
Yeah.
that from people.
Absolutely. No, and that's something that like there's I don't know if you're familiar with Lee Carter.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a state rep in Virginia, and like that seems like I say state rep, it's like some like crazy thing like the House of Lords or some shit that Virginia's got special. But Lee Carter, great dude, and he kind of pulled the like Eminem and 8 Mile where like, hey, I'm just gonna let you know my whole spiel of what's wrong with me, and that takes away the power from it, and like all but at the end of the day I just want to work for you, right, the people, and these experiences have led me here. They've fed to what I am and able to do, and so And that's actually, I wish we had more time because the amount of giveaways that Carolyn Maloney has given to like the real estate lobby and the banks and everything like that. Um, yeah, it's a cash cow. So
Totally.
next time we got to start out on the banking issues and the real estate issues where she's tied business or well, I say business in her personal life and in the congressional theater as well. But I know you got to get going, and I just want to say thank you so much for
Thank
being here.
you.
And I don't know, yeah, we got to go through give everyone the thank yous, but yeah, hope your cat feels better. And
Thank
we'll be
you.
following up with you and try to support anything that you got going on.
Oh my
But
gosh.
if you want to do a shameless plug, we know they got the community garden that just started up, which is awesome.
Yes.
So yeah, shameless plug. It's your time.
Well, I'm not running for anything right now, so follow me if you want. If you don't, that's fine.
No, follower, you're
But
forced to. You have to.
yeah, no, we just built a community garden in Queensbridge, which is wonderful. For decades, NYCHA was saying that the land belonged to New York City Parks. New York City Parks was saying that the land belonged to NYCHA. And in this bureaucratic battle, that lot was filling up with litter and construction materials and like abandoned storage containers, dog shit. So we decided it was me and one of my very, very dear friends, Sugar Ray Marston, who decided we're just going to take the land. And we turned it into a beautiful community garden with the help of so many volunteers that came out 2 weekends in a row. The next step is we're going to install a children's library.
Heck
We're going to
yeah.
build the building ourselves. So it's a beautiful thing to realize, and this is a lesson in general, is that the government kind of doesn't always exist to help. And whenever the people come together, we can get shit done.
Yes.
And I think that speaks to where we are in this movement too, is like the government's pretty much fucked everything up. And the right way to go is where you see people protesting to push us in the direction of every single person having equality. And yes, Black Lives Matter. And the reason that people are protesting is because it pains people to say that. There are people that don't think Black Lives Matter, and that's why we protest. And fuck all lives matter. Nobody's questioning whether my life matters. Well, some people are. My trolls
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
But generally, we're in the middle of watching our state collapse. We're watching police brutality that specifically targets Black people. And we're standing up against that. And we're standing up against capitalism and the military industrial complex and the idea that we're quickly moving towards a very solidified police state. And these are all the things that, yeah, you should vote. Register to vote. If you're not registered to vote, you should vote. And it really matters that you vote, but it also matters that you support these protests right now. And it matters that whenever there's a general strike that you participate, because together people can push us in the right direction despite the government.
Well, there it is. I don't need to say any more. Um, Thank you so much. That was like Nina Turner. That's like I'm ready to go march and I'm ready to go. Canvas or do something for Bernie, but that can't happen anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
support your local protesters, donate to
Support your
bail
local
funds.
protesters, and actually, and I'd say too, one of your favorite people, one of our favorite people, Paula Jean Swearengin, running for Senate in West Virginia.
Yes.
Go support the hell out of her. Yeah, we're gonna be trying to do a show on Paula Jean. If we can get her, that would be completely absurd and ridiculous, but
You just
awesome,
reminded me I
awesome,
have to
awesome.
text.
Shoot her a text. We'll see if we can make it happen. But thank you so much for being here, and I think it's a great conversation. I hope everyone enjoyed it. So I gotta let you go. I'm gonna stay on stream for a few more seconds and give out some thank yous. But thank you, Lauren, for being here.
Thank you for having me, and I really look forward to our next conversations.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.